I would say truly believe in what you're doing. No one's going to believe in you unless you believe in you first. It's so many different things that we go through in our lives that we're like, there's going to be pushback, there's going to be no's, there's going to be all these different hurdles and roadblocks. If you believe in what you're doing, then it's achievable.
You know who made it.
Welcome back to the Wealth Eazy Show, where we talk all things wealth, health, and real estate. Today, folks, I got a real special guest. He is a renowned multidisciplinary artist from Toronto that has traveled internationally showcasing his artwork and murals. He left the comforts of the corporate finance world to pursue his true passion and lifelong dream. He graduated with a degree in finance from Alabama State University on an NCAA Division I baseball scholarship and utilizes life experience and pop culture to inspire his artwork. His large-scale private commission murals and exclusive artworks have been shown worldwide in Toronto, New York, Los Angeles, Brazil, Miami, and London. Please welcome to the show, Anthony Ricciardi. Welcome, buddy.
How's it going? Thank you so much. Very grateful to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
What have you been up to? Because I noticed you've been traveling. I see you traveling so much.
Yeah.
And especially for work and art. Tell us where you've been traveling to and what you've been up to lately, over the summer.
For sure. So I have a couple different galleries that are here in Toronto, where I live, and then I do a lot of pop-ups. So recently, I've done a pop-up in Sydney, Australia. I've done one in Dubai. Setting up one in Singapore right now. Travel down to Miami often, LA. So because I'm self-represented as an artist, I don't have any other galleries that represent me except one in Australia. I'm always on the go. I'm always doing a pop-up here, doing another show there. So it's been an exciting journey, and art has definitely taken me places that I never could have dreamed of going. So it's awesome.
For my listeners, why don't you give us a 2-minute bio on yourself, because you were never in art. You started in finance. So that's quite a transition. So tell my listeners a bio about yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, I always wanted to be an artist, but they say like, you're going to grow up, you're going to be a starving artist. It's impossible to do this. Yeah. So it was really, really difficult, but I always had this passion. So I ended up going to school in Alabama, as you mentioned, on a baseball scholarship, totally separate. And instead of studying art, I studied finance because, growing up, I looked up to a couple of my uncles, a couple of people that I knew that were in finance. And guess what? They made money. So I was like, I want to make money. This sounds good. So I get into finance. I started working for a real estate investment fund. Actually, it was really, really interesting work. Everyone always asks me, "Oh, you must have hated work and hated finance." I'm like, I actually liked it. It was really interesting. I was young, making good money, meeting cool people. It was like really exciting. But every night and weekend, I started painting, and it was about a 5-year period that I worked in finance. And every night I would paint. Then every weekend I would paint. Then I would start waking up early and paint. And looking back now, it was just an escape for me, and I just started doing it just as a passion. But slowly but surely, small things started to add up. And eventually I was like, well, if I'm going to do something crazy, like quit my job and become an artist, I might as well do it while we're young. And that was about 9, almost 10 years ago now, and left finance fully to become an artist. And since then, I've opened up, galleries all over the world and sort of just done my thing in art. It's been a journey.
That's amazing. And, you remind me of the guest that I had on last week, Julie Cole, who is the founder of Mabel's Labels. And she was a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
She was a lawyer, and she was sitting around having a discussion with her sister and a couple of friends of wouldn't it be nice if we had a label that we could put, she's got 6 kids. And they all had kids, and they're putting masking tape on lunch pails and lunch bottles. You got kids, right?
Yeah, too.
And there's like, you know what? It's dishwasher safety. It comes off, and you got to keep doing this. They did so much research and came up with Mabel's Labels, which is a dishwasher microwave friendly label.
Wow.
So she completely left the corporate world of being a lawyer to go into being entrepreneurship. Yeah. You left finance, a stable job, steady income stream, to go into being an artist, which is even kind of riskier because you've got to have a certain type of art that people are going to appreciate and want to purchase.
Sure.
What was that like, that financial risk and the mental preparedness to leave a steady paying job to pursue your dream?
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge one. And looking back now, I often think, I'm like, I don't even know how I got into the right mindset to do this. So the week before my wedding, I quit my job. the night that I closed on my first house. I quit my job. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going all in, and I'm doing it all. And when I think back in the moment, I didn't even realize that. Like, I didn't even realize being able to say this back now. I'm like, literally 7 days before my wedding, I'm like, all right, I'm done. And the night, I remember it was a Tuesday night, the night we're signing off the papers to buy our first house, I quit. And I was like, well, I gotta go all in. And I believe that is, you know how it is. You have to go all in anything you want. And if I did it half-assed, or if I would have like taken a shortcut or had a plan B, we wouldn't be here today. So I really believe that doing that was the catalyst to get me here today. But on the financial risk, like, I mean, it was everything. But I did believe in myself enough, not necessarily believe in myself that I would sell art or anything. I had the backup already, not a plan B, but I knew that I went to school. I knew that I worked hard. I knew I had all these different work ethic to get me there. I just needed to take the leap, and that's what I did.
I like what you just said, and I hope my listeners picked up on it. You had no plan B. Because I think when people have a plan B, they're not going to put 100% into plan A because if it doesn't work out, I got backup.
Yes.
There is no backup. Like, you literally quit your job and you're signing for a new home, which is probably the largest purchase someone will make in their lifetime.
For sure.
Huge responsibility. It's like, okay, now I need to make this work because I have a mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. You got some big cojones to do
but
that.
It's putting yourself in that situation constantly. And I think I've continued to do that over the last 9 years, where I'm putting myself in, we'll say to the outside world looking at it, like a tight situation. Putting myself in a situation where it had to work, like you just mentioned. And without a plan B, you got to make this work. And then you layer in family, you layer in a wife, you layer in kids, you layer in a home and mortgage and all the different things. You're like, well, we're going to make this work one way or another.
Do you think if you had a plan B, you would have not succeeded?
I would have taken the plan B.
What would have your plan B been?
Well, there was a couple different things. When I was first quitting, my dad had a couple friends that were like, hey, they can hire you. This is 9 years ago, so there wasn't real remote jobs back then. Then there was, but they can hire you remotely, or you can get a part-time job. Or I was coaching baseball at the time because I came back from a baseball scholarship, so I was a coach. I could have kept doing that. I literally dropped everything, like even the baseball, any side jobs I was doing. I was like, no, I'm only focused on art. So I didn't even really think through my plan B because I was so certain I didn't need one. But there was little things I could have done just to, float me financially while I picked up art. But I just said, let's put our head down and make it work.
That's a really strong mindset to say, I didn't even focus on a plan B.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that strong mindset.
Yeah. I don't know where it came from. I just thought it was the only way to do it.
So when you decided I'm going to go into art, did you have an idea of, I'm not an artist. I'm not I've seen your work and I love your work, but I notice a lot of your work has to do with hearts.
Yeah.
Would you call is that contemporary art or so did you have an idea of what type of art you want to do? Did you always have a thing to do with hearts? Tell me about that thing with hearts.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. It's evolved. So at the beginning, yes, it's all contemporary. It's mixed media, modern. At the start of my art career, it was very abstract in tones because that's all I knew how to do. Yeah. Then it went into recreating celebrity iconic photos. The hearts came about 4 or 5 years into me really painting full time. And it was a message to myself that when you follow your heart, incredible things happen. And I started to I used to write it on the wall in my studio, and I started to put it into my art. And as I traveled, more and more people resonated with it. They're like, oh, I recognize those hearts. Oh, those hearts inspire me. And that's sort of how it built up the story behind the hearts. Now it's featured in pretty much 90% of all my artwork. I include some version of a heart. But it's because that constant message is that when we follow our heart, incredible things happen. But the style of art has continued to develop, has continued to evolve. But I didn't really know going into art. I didn't really have a plan for the style I was going to do. So my uncle was an artist, and he was a fantastic artist. He did a lot of portraits. Unfortunately, he passed away when I was in university, and transparently, he never did really well in art. So he would tell me art's it's good, do it on the side. But this is my biggest inspiration is telling me don't, because financially you're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. He didn't say those words, but your actions show.
Yeah.
So it was actually the total opposite. I never even thought about how to develop my collections and how to develop a gallery and all that stuff because I was like, this isn't even possible. So it happened all so organically. As I grew and as I did things, I just kept evolving.
So it's because now that's kind of your brand.
Yeah.
Right. So, I know Max Jamali does butterflies.
Yeah.
Everybody, you look at a butterfly, if people know it's Max Jamali.
Yeah.
People look at hearts and they know that's Anthony Ricciardi.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to come up and build that brand where someone can look like this guy? This is a beautiful painting that he brought for me today. So thank you very much.
Of course.
When you look at that, if I didn't even, I look at that and I go, that's Anthony Ricciardi. I don't even have to know the name because of the style.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to really build that brand?
On the branding side of it, it's been about the last 6 years of doing it like in every single one of my paintings. And it didn't initially, when I was painting it, I didn't really think of it as a brand. But then what I started to do was I made jewelry. I made some necklaces. I made t-shirts. I made shorts. I started doing these things for myself. I made shorts for myself. And when I walked in, you're like, oh, I like the shorts. I just made them for myself. And then people were like, I want some. I'm like, okay, I'll make a couple more. Yeah. I made a couple t-shirts for myself. So I did things that I wanted to wear and wanted to do. And that's sort of how the brand aspect of it developed. But then translating that into art is often tricky as well, because I've had to find a way to make it not just a heart. Like, so this painting right here is a bunch of linked hearts with the gold and the white in the background. I do hearts that are linked into, characters, or whether it's a Richie Rich, or whether it's a any famous athlete or Marilyn Monroe of the world. And I just sort of work them into everything now.
Hey everyone, it's John. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask that you please subscribe to the show by just clicking the subscribe button right here. I'd really appreciate it. It helps grow the show so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. If you're already subscribed, a huge thank you. When you subscribe, you're going to get access to the program before anybody else does. So if you would, just click subscribe right here. Thanks so much, and welcome back to the Wealth Easy Show. There's a lot of people out there that may be contemplating doing what you did. Leaving their corporate job or leaving their safe security place to fulfill a passion or a dream that they have. What psychological or financial barriers do you think that holds most people back that you were able to overcome?
Yeah. It's the fear of letting other people down and not believing in yourself during that process.
Yeah.
Over the 5 years that I worked in finance, like, when I say every night and weekend I painted, I was building up resilience that I didn't even know about, because I didn't really care what people thought about my art. It wasn't a career. I was just making it. And then starting
Art's very personal.
It's very personal. Definitely.
Yes.
Especially at the start when no one's watching and no one cares and no one's buying. You're literally doing this for yourself. And still to this day, I make paintings just for myself. Sometimes people resonate with them. Sometimes people don't. But being able to, anything creative and any career change as a whole, if you believe that you're putting the best out into the world that you physically can, that's when it starts to work. When you're second guessing yourself because you're worried about what other people are going to think about it, you're worried about, is it going to be successful? Am I going to let these people down? All these different variables, you'll never do anything. So for me, I was so strong-willed in the sense of like, I know it's going to work if I give this my all. And I mean, it took 5 years. It wasn't like I woke up on a Monday and was like, hey, I'm going to quit my job. It was a long process, and it took work. It took time. I did many solo shows during those 5-year period where I would just like rent a little party room in a condo, or I would just rent a little space, like, very small little pop-ups, one night, invite family and friends. I did so many, like 6 or 7 of those before I was like, oh, people are starting to like my artwork. Not necessarily selling anything, not necessarily making enough money to quit my job, but people like it, and that's all I can ask for. And then I just kept that snowball going.
So when you say a pop-up, what's a pop-up?
Yeah. So at the start, I would go to like a condo and I would find a party room, and I would bring in 10 or 12 paintings and I would do a show there. Then as
you're selling on the spot.
Yep.
Okay.
And as I got bigger, I would find empty storefronts or spaces like party venues or, different people, places that rent out spaces. And I would rent it for the night, whatever it costs for one night, bring in some catering, bring in some drinks, and have all my art up. And then people can come and, view it, buy it, whatever it may be. Then what ended up happening was, because I had done that about 6 or 7 times, I opened up a gallery in Yorkdale Mall, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
I was in there for just over 4.5 years with this pop-up, and it started as a pop-up. It started as a one weekend pop-up, and it did so well that we extended it into like a multi-year show. But what that meant by a pop-up was we found an empty vacant space that was on a short-term lease that was going to be eventually rented out by someone else, and I went in. And then when the big tenant came in, like whoever it was, I would move and go to the next one. And then I would move and go to the next one. And that's what I did over a number of years. So that's the type of pop-ups that I've done. was a very entrepreneurial approach. Like artists don't do that. It's not something that a lot of artists have ever done. I didn't even know of any other until I did it. Now some people do it. It's cool. But at the time I had never seen it before. I'm like, well, no one's listening to me. No galleries will take my calls because I'm like a finance kid.
Yeah.
And no one's gonna actually watch like my artwork unless I go put it out there. So that's what I did.
Now, did you find being like Yorkdale's an excellent mall? If you didn't do anything like that, I mean, it's an excellent mall to be in. Was it successful? Did you was it slow at the beginning, or did you find success right away with the people going through the mall?
No, it was insane. That's actually where I met Richard. Where I met Dolan. He came into one of my first galleries, very early in my career. But no, it was successful right away, which was crazy. The first weekend we signed on a 3-day lease because that's all I could afford at the time. And the first weekend I had almost 30 paintings that sold out, which was crazy. And that gave us the lease to extend to Friday. That Friday turned into a multi-year just because the foot traffic through Yorkdale, as you know, is the right traffic. My first gallery was like just down the hall from like Rolex and Holtz and all the big stores. So the clientele that's walking
Billionaires
through,
Lane.
yeah, all the clientele that's walking through, you'd get thousands of people walking by a day. And of course, some people are like, I don't like art. Oh, this sucks. Sure, whatever, who cares? But then you'd get one or two. They're like, I really like this painting. It resonates with me. And then that just kept snowballing.
And now you've also got a gallery at Pearson International Airport. Is it Terminal 1 or 3?
Terminal 1. Yes. So right at the entrance of Terminal 1 before security, there's a Tim Hortons and a Jamba Juice. And so it's right there. So I have that ongoing at Terminal 1. And then I have one in Yorkville Village.
Now, people are at an airport to travel. They're not there to shop.
Yeah.
How have you found success at an airport? Are people just ordering it and say, hey, listen, I like that piece, ship it to my home?
So the airport one's been more of an exposure play. I went into that one genuinely not expecting to sell much because of that. People are on commute. People are trying to get to their plane, trying to get home. They're rushing. But the back end of it, of people taking photos in front of the artwork, people sending me photos, people being inspired, has been more than I could have imagined. But from a sales standpoint, I don't think there's been many direct sales like off the wall there because it's an open concept. Everything's behind glass. There's no employee working there. So it's not like I'm actively selling in that one. That's a very different concept than the other ones.
But you're getting a lot of eyes.
But it's a lot of eyes. And that's what it really, especially you can access it from the international baggage claim. You can hit it. So like international flights from all over the world literally have to walk by the gallery every day, all hours of the day. So eyeballs is fantastic, and that was the play on that one for sure. Like a Yorkville Village, and I'm next week opening up in Bayview Village as well. Those are sales galleries. Like those are people who are walking through, they're seeing the artwork, they have space on their wall, or they want to invest in artwork, and they're like, okay, well, I like this painting, I want to buy this. So those are that play. The airport is more of an exposure one.
How do you determine what you're going to sell a painting for?
Yeah. It's a great question. And it's happened over time. At the beginning, years ago, 9, 10, rewind 12 years ago when I was working, I would sell a painting for whatever it costs. Like it cost me a couple $100 to make, I would sell it for $300. And over time, I would sell my paintings for $1,000, they would all sell out. And it was a simple supply and demand. Okay, well now I can make it $2,000, they all sell out. If I'm making 10 in a month, or how many paintings I'm making in a month for a given time, and they all sell out. Okay, fine, let's go to 5,000. They all sell out. Let's go to 12,000. They all sell out. So now the most of my paintings are in like the $16,000 to $25,000 range.
Wow.
And it's been a good market for me because the beauty of where I'm at right now is the art market's absolutely insane. As you probably know, like prints of Andy Warhols are in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And that's Warhol. I'm not comparing myself to Warhol.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the range of the art market goes into the multi-millions. So what people now are looking at my artwork at that range, that $15,000, $30,000 range, like, well, we could buy one of these older paintings that have already, accumulated prices and they're appreciated enough, or we can buy 3 or 4 Ricciardis. And it's becoming that standpoint where now it's becoming an investment because in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I'm still very young, the paintings will go to secondary market. They will start being traded at a higher multiple. And that's where the price has been, continue to rise. So right now it's just been simple supply and demand, very organically. As people have continued to buy, I've slowly, over the last 12 years, just incremented those prices up.
Well, people know that I'm in the finance business.
Yeah.
And I'm an advisor. And one asset to the wealthy is art,
For sure.
because art seems to appreciate over time.
Yeah.
And like you said, you could buy a Warhol, or you could buy something from Da Vinci, or something that's already increased so much in value.
Yes.
However, you're a relatively new artist, I guess, and, being
In the
10
scale
years
of the
in
world.
this
Yeah,
scale,
yeah, yeah.
right? 9-10 years in the business.
Mm-hmm.
As you become more known and the values of your painting keep going, as you get more demand, you can
Yes.
increase your prices. People who already have your paintings, that's just going to increase in value.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And some people have, like, people that bought, recently a client of mine that moved to Dubai, he bought a painting 7 years ago for $5,000 and was moving and wanted to sell it. And he asked me if it was okay. Like, I mean, for you, it's your painting. You can do whatever you want. And he sold it for, I think, $22,000, which is a very good return in a small
Wow.
period of time. And that wasn't through me. It was through a third party. And I was like, that's awesome. And it sort of opened my eyes to, like, what's going to come and
Yes.
the beauty of it. And that's literally what I'm trying to do. And I think my investment background, my finance background made me allowed me to understand that side of it as well, which I think a lot of other artists don't have the benefit of. Whereas, like, I understand the beauty about the art investment as well is you get to enjoy it on your wall. You get to
Yes.
enjoy it in your living room. You get to enjoy it. You get to enjoy it in your hallways. And hopefully, in the worst case scenario, it's retaining its value, right? Like, in the absolute worst case scenario, you put something on your wall that you absolutely love, and it's not going down. It's not depreciating. So that's the beauty of art.
So are you painting every day, or you paint almost every day?
Almost every day.
Are you doing repetitive pieces, or
no,
are you
everything's-
commissioned?
Yeah, everything's unique. Everything's one of a kind. I'll do a lot of pieces. Yeah, so a lot of custom pieces. So a lot of times the custom pieces come into play where you'll be like, I have this huge wall. It needs a very special size. So sizing is usually where the custom pieces come into play. Or like, I need it to be 8 feet. It need to be 12 feet. It need to be 5 foot high, whatever it may be. And then what we do is, because I have such a big breadth of work now, we can look at, like, the range of all the paintings that I've done and paintings that I have available, because I have about 50 paintings available at any given time through all the different galleries. And we can say, like, oh, I really like this one and this one, but I would love it to be these color tones. And we can work together. I would create that custom sketch for you, and then we would turn it into a painting. So I'm making as much as I physically can. I travel a lot. Like, this afternoon, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to North Carolina for the weekend. Yeah, it's just for an event. So I travel a lot. So I'm making as much as I can while I'm here, and then I'm on the road. Recently, I moved my studio home, which has been the biggest blessing. I had a studio that was in Vaughan, and I live in Etobicoke, and I was commuting 35, 40 minutes every day to go to the studio. I was like, I need to change this. Like, I need somewhere I can just quickly, and there was nothing available near me. So I built a studio in my basement, which has been fantastic. And I can just work so much more. Now, if I get an idea at 11 p.m., I just walk downstairs and paint.
Oh, fantastic.
Or wake up early and paint.
Yeah.
So it's been a dream.
I had my office is in my home, and I used to have the big office, the boardroom, and the whole full reception area. And I probably, when my lease was coming up for renewal, this is going back probably about 7-8 years ago, I actually had to figure out, do I want to re-sign my lease? Is it actually worth it? Because I was actually traveling. It was, my office was in Mississauga. I was living in Vaughan, and it would take me sometimes 45 minutes to go home at night.
Yeah.
And I said, do I want to renew this lease? How many times, can I count on two hands how many times clients actually came to my office to see me?
That was it.
And I'm like, I'll bet I can count on two hands the amount of times clients come. Why am I spending $7,000 a month
Yes.
and paying a salary for an assistant and have this beautiful boardroom? I'm like, screw it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to resign. I'm going to sell the furniture. And if clients want to see me, I'll go to them.
Sure.
And I'm going to have an office in my home. I brought back 2 hours into my life,
Yeah.
right? Because
right.
of traveling time.
That's right.
But I added, probably with salaries and probably $10,000 a month, I added back to my bottom line.
That's right.
But what I did, it's not even about the money. I gained time back.
For time.
I gained my time.
100%. I had that exact conversation with myself.
We have
That is
kids.
crazy.
We have young kids
Yeah.
at the time, and that's
Yeah.
when our kids need us.
Yes. It's so important. That conversation that you had with yourself was the exact one I had. I looked down the list of how many times clients came all the way to Vaughan. I was in Vaughan.
Yeah.
How many times they drove out there. A lot of my clients are downtown. A lot of my clients are not even in Canada. So I was like, wait, why do I need this? I was 2,200 square feet, this big studio. Why do I need this?
Yeah.
I've actually had, so I moved out of my studio 4 months ago. I've had 3 clients come to my house now. They come to my house, see me and my wife, come down to see the studio, talk about art. That's more than I had the last 2 years come to my studio that I was paying for, which is crazy.
Right?
So it's been, you're 100% right. And then the time. Like, oh my gosh, and you get stuck in traffic, and then 2 hours a day for what?
And what's
sitting in
great
the car.
I'm up at 4:30. I get up, and what's the first thing I do? I go down, I make my coffee, and I sit in front of my computer, and I already start answering emails.
Yeah, uninterrupted, beautiful,
Uninterrupted.
quiet.
When I wrote my book, from 5 till 7, I was writing, but I'm in my office.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, and you said it too, if you get an idea at 11 o'clock, you can run downstairs. It's not like, when you get that idea, you want to work on it. It's like, okay, I've got this passion. I've got this burning desire. I got to finish this. I got this idea and I know exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
You could run down and paint it and it could be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I'm going to wait till tomorrow if I remember, or you might write it down and say, you know what? I'm not in the mood right now. I'm not feeling right now. And you're not going to give your best work.
That's right.
So it's great that we bought back our time, but I love having an office in my home where I could be working. A lot of times I'm working till 8 o'clock at night. My wife will call me or bring dinner into my office because I'm still working.
Yeah.
I find that I work more hours having an office in the home. And I think a lot of companies during COVID, when they had people working from home, they actually had higher production.
Yeah. Yeah, because people can work at all times. You can,
Yes.
and it's okay that your wife comes in for a second. It's okay that you got to step out for a moment, but you're going to get actually more work done on your time in a better routine and feeling for sure.
I've seen some of your Instagram where you are actually standing on scaffolding.
Yeah, yeah.
And doing something
I've
on
done
someone's
huge murals.
wall.
Yeah.
How do you get those type of clients?
Those big murals, those big things, they usually come from an individual client first. So I'll do a painting for a private home or a client, and they'll own a different business. For a simple example was I did a painting for a client, and he became a friend of mine in Puerto Rico, and he ended up owning a luxury resort in Antigua. And as I'm there with him in Puerto Rico and we're talking, he's like, "Oh, I have this big wall in Antigua at this resort I own." I go, "Oh, really? I do murals. Let's see it." And then we fly to Antigua, we map it all out, and then I end up doing this big mural. That's sort of how it's happened with all the developers I've worked with. Like I do a lot of developers, like condo construction deals, where I'll do the lobbies, the interiors, the outside murals, all the amenity spaces. So it usually starts with doing an individual painting for an individual client, and then it rolls into what else do you do, and what else do you have that we can make beautiful. And that's sort of how it's, but I've been on some very scary scaffolding and lifts. A very quick story. I did last November, actually, so a year ago now, I did a mural in Liberty Village. And it was this huge building, I think 90 feet up in the air.
Wow.
And you got the wind from the water. Before I started the mural, I went all the way up on the skyjack. And the thing is swaying and moving. And I'm absolute, there's wind howling. It's cold. It's November. I come all the way down. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I physically can't. This is scary. I've never been this scared. I'm strapped in and whatever, but I am just mortified. I'm like, I cannot do this. I had to come down and literally sit for about an hour and go, I have to. I'm here already. Like I got the paint ready. I am ready to go. So that was a really scary one. We ended up getting through it. It's like one of my biggest and most exciting murals, but it was a scary one.
Wow.
Very definitely scary.
How do you balance the creative style of the business with family life? Because you got 2 young kids.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
I've always been very, very fortunate with the home life and business balance. And it's because my wife works with me. So when I opened up my first gallery, like rewinding 8 years ago, she was a teacher at the time. And then at that time, when I opened up first gallery, I literally couldn't afford to hire anybody to come into the gallery and work. It was just me working. And we got so busy. I was like, okay, well, to my wife, I'm like, you got to come help out. So she was helping out at nights after school and helping out on weekends, of course. And then it finally was like, well, we're starting to make more money here than your salary. So why don't I just hire you, or hire you? You work with me. So this is pre-kids. And we started working together, and I'm so lucky. We've been together for 16 years now. Like, I'm just very, very blessed to have her. So we started working together. So then once we had our son, who's 5 now, he just sort of implemented into everything that we do. We've traveled all around the world with them. Like this afternoon, we're going to North Carolina. We're taking him out of school. Like, the family's coming with me. So and that's just because I'm going for work, but like, I don't want to be away from them.
Yeah.
So I've been very lucky to just be able to implement them into the work. Especially now, like we talk about having the home studio. If it's nighttime and I'm just doing something for fun or just painting something that's easy, my son will come down and we'll have some fun and we'll paint and he'll make a mess. But yeah, the family, I've been very, very fortunate with the family life balance with regards to the art, because I am flexible, right? There's never really, there's some deadlines that I got to finish things in, but I'm really on my own time. And that means when they go to bed, I can keep painting. When there's no meetings to be had, I can really do work. When he's at school, I can paint. So stuff like that. And
Quiet time.
Yeah. I can really get a lot done during that time.
How old's your son?
He's 5.
5.
Yeah. And my daughter's 7 months.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Do you see a bit of the artist in your son?
I think so. He likes a little bit of everything, which is cool. Yeah. He definitely loves to paint, but I think that's just because he's a kid and likes to throw paint around. He likes sports. He likes everything. I'm hoping that I can just, give them everything to see, which I'm sure you've done with yours as well. Yeah. Let them see everything, and hopefully they'll choose something that they have a real passion in.
The extent of my art is drawing stick people.
But you're creative in so many ways, right?
But my son's mother is a fantastic artist.
Oh, awesome.
And she used to paint. And one day I walked in to see what my son was doing, and this is going back a few years ago. I thought maybe he was gaming, because I told him no more gaming for the rest of the afternoon. And I walked in, and he's at his desk. He's got his back to me, and I walk over, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm sketching. I'm drawing."
Oh, wow.
And he's drawing like Pokemon characters.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, I said, "Did you trace this?" He's like, "No."
Wow.
I just draw. I'm like, "Buddy, you have a real talent. You definitely don't get that from your dad. You get that from your mother." Yeah. Because I'll draw stick people. I can't draw anything to save my life.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how genes and DNA, he has this gift just to freehand draw something, which is incredible. He's got this beautiful talent. Now we've discovered he sings.
Oh, wow.
And when I say sing, like, blows me away, like, for a year and a half. So he's been doing piano, and he's been doing piano for several years now, probably since he was like 6. So when his mother said to me, Michelangelo wants to take vocal lessons, I'm like, vocal lessons?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And I said to him, we're like, vocal lessons, like, you just want to learn how to sing? He goes, "No, Dad, I've been singing for like a year and a half." I'm like, "A year and a half?
Wow.
Like, where do you sing?" He goes, "I sing in the shower. I'll sing by myself." I'm like, "Buddy, I'll support anything that you want to do."
You never know.
So, going back to my father, my biological father, and my uncle won a Grammy in 1980. He's a very famous artist in Nashville. He's produced, written, he's recorded. He's got several of his own albums. He writes music, produces.
Wow.
Won a Grammy in 1980. He's got an incredible voice. My father, same thing. My father comes from a family.
So that's where it comes from. There you go.
Yeah, it comes from 5 boys, and they're called the McGuire boys.
Whoa.
And so they all grew up singing. My father's got an incredible voice. When I heard my son sing for the first time, I got goosebumps. I thought, this is my son singing? Like, and you know what he loves to sing? Sinatra.
Oh,
Nat King Cole. Dean Martin.
Crazy.
Like Michael Bublé. Yeah. Harry Connick. He's an old soul. That's the stuff he likes to sing. So
it's coming through your side, your dad,
it's coming through my
your
dad.
uncle.
So he's got
so cool.
When
That's
we talk
amazing.
about DNA, he's got the artistry, the drawing, everything from his mom.
Yeah.
And he's got this gift of singing from his grandfather. And he's an incredible singer. And I hear him, it's like everyone here says, like, "That's your son?"
Yeah.
Like, what an incredible voice. Like, he definitely had, even my uncle who won a Grammy said, he's got it.
Wow.
He just has to work on pitching control.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Structure it.
So I'm curious to find out if your son watching you is going to pick up and have this gift and
I think so. They do watch, right? They do more of what we do than what we say, right? So he sees me painting all the time. He wants to paint. But one thing that really interesting me about creativity is that you made the joke of I can only draw a stick person, but your creativity has come out, and I know you can say this, your financial plans, the way you've structured insurance for people, the way you've structured very complex things and found creative ways to analyze and to go around and figure out very unique situations. That is creativity in its core.
Making it simple to understand.
And making it simple. That is creativity. So your creativity came through in a different way.
Yeah.
His may came through in a vocal way, or singing or dancing or whatever it may be, drawing. But it is beautiful how creativity comes out in different people. And I think all we can do, like you said, is like, if my son wants to try singing, let's get him a vocal coach. Let's actually hone into that. And that's the same thing that I'm going to do with my son. Is like, there's a couple things that I can teach him, which is baseball and arts, sure, but anything else that he likes, we're gonna push him along too, because you never know. You never know.
I say, let him try everything and see what he likes and what he's good at.
Yeah. We recently joined my son up in jiu-jitsu and boxing, and we never really thought anything of it. I never grew up fighting or any mixed martial arts, but my son's a very active little boy. He's like a boy's boy, and he's loving it. And I was like, me and my wife were like, cool. Like we never thought that he would, enjoy jiu-jitsu, because there's some structure to it, and he's a very active boy. And we're like, but he absolutely loves it right now. We're like, well, here you go, keep going. And it's really cool to see them like latch on to something and grow and develop.
There's gonna come a point where he's not gonna like it anymore. My son, we started him in karate.
Yeah.
He was 5.
Yeah. It's already around my son, JJ.
Yeah. He was about 5 years old. We started him in karate, and he went through all his belts. And up until last year, he actually got his brown stripe. If you understand how the belts work, after brown stripe, you know what the next belt is? Black.
Yeah.
Right? Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, buddy, you're so close.
You're there.
He goes, yeah, but I got to wait a year and a half to get black. I go, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you remember when you start off with white and then you're going through all the belt testings?
Yeah.
Right? So he's 13 now, but when he was like 12, he's like, Dad, do I got to go to karate? I'm like, when you start something, you finish it.
Yeah.
He just gave us so much problem. He goes, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I have no more interest. I don't care to get black belt. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to argue with him, force you?
You can't force. That's the other problem, right? You can't force them, and they resent it.
I said, you know what? It's really disappointing, because I always believe when you start something, you finish it.
For sure.
You start it, you get your black. You want to quit?
Quit after that, yeah.
But at least you got your black.
Yeah, at least
and
you
then
finished.
if you want to decide that you want to teach, the dojo would hire you because you have a black belt. Now you can teach. He goes, I have zero interest. Okay.
But he learned a lot of other disciplines by getting that far,
yes.
right? That's half of the battle, especially with the martial arts side of the world, is that learning body control. And I'm sure he's an in shape boy if he's all the way there.
13, he's 6 foot.
Yeah,
He's huge.
So,
He's bigger than me.
yeah, so body control, but also discipline.
Discipline.
It's so important.
Yes.
And those things go a long way in life as a whole. So it's unfortunate that especially at that age, 13, 14-year-old boy, it's like, do I really want to keep, how, boys.
Yeah, but it's
sucks,
like it. He starts off fun, and then as they get it becomes tougher.
Sure.
And then he develops other interests. But
yeah,
that's okay. Now he wants to sing. Like, this is something that you're great at. Here's another question. AI has really taken off, and it could do everything from write books to write speeches to anything. AI now can also do art.
Yeah.
So with the rise of AI and digital art, how do you see the value proposition of physical art evolving?
Yeah. So I've very recently started using AI to assist with my artwork. And when I say assist, is a lot of times I'll have creative ideas on how I recently did a collection of horses that I want to paint. I'm doing a big collaboration with the Royal Agricultural Fair downtown. And I did a collection of horses and all these different things. And when I have an idea now for a specific flower that I want to paint or a horse that I want to paint, if I type on Google, because I need reference images sometimes. Like I want to see, like I don't usually sketch it off the top of my brain. I'll like find a horse from here and find a land from there, and I'll blend it together in my head. So now I can literally go in AI, like a Mid-Journey of the world, whatever it's called. I'll type in horse running in the field with a cowboy on its back and an American flag behind that. Type it in, it'll give me 100 options of this. It'll digitally AI create options. And I can be like, that's actually the horse that I want to create. And then I'll create my own version of it. But it's helped so much in the developmental stages of my artwork, because I can be like, okay, I want to do a city landscape, but I want it from this perspective of Toronto. and in 2 seconds, it'll give me that perspective, which a photographer has never taken that
But
perspective.
you got to physically,
You gotta input-
hand paint. You're hand
Yes.
painting that. Okay. So
Of
it's
course,
just,
yeah.
So it's just kind of giving you, it's
Giving me
good-
guidance.
guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the other side of it, digital art has been around forever. And especially, 3-4 years ago when NFTs blew up and everyone was
Yeah.
doing digital art. I stay out of digital. I don't really do anything in digital space besides get inspiration from it. And I don't think it'll ever take over original art. I think if anything, it'll help original art continue to rise. But there are elements where digital art and, like I mentioned, how I utilize AI, it could help. So I don't see any negatives to it at all. I think it's really, really cool, and technology is incredible.
You mentioned NFTs. Let's touch on that for a second. So NFTs is a form of digital art, and it trades.
Yeah.
I know a couple of years ago, like you got some really ridiculous pieces that were selling for like hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're almost like worth nothing.
Yeah. They all are worth nothing. It's crazy. So non-fungible tokens is what is the name behind NFT for anyone who doesn't know. And pretty much there's these pictures that are going onto the blockchain, so you can see the provenance of all of these paintings. So the problem is that, like, when Picasso did a painting many, many years ago, now it goes to auction. We don't even know if he did it. We don't know who did it. And that was the biggest issue Rembrandt, there's a very famous Rembrandt that just came out of a picture of Jesus that it was from, how many years ago, and it sold for $400 million. And they don't even know if he painted it. It could have been someone else that just signed Rembrandt. What NFTs try to accomplish was beating that system where you know who created it because it's on the blockchain forever. Then the greed of the world steps in, and people realize that they can easily trade these very, very quickly. A painting is there's a couple of steps in process. You got to get the painting, you got to ship the painting, you got to hang the painting, you got to pay for the painting. NFT art, one click of a digital currency, whatever currency you're using, Bitcoin mainly, you can buy the painting. It's in your wallet. So people realize how fast those transactions can happen, and they abuse the system, and that's simply what happened. It was hyper inflated, hyper balloon, and of course, when everyone realized that now they just have a bunch of photos in their wallet, what do we do with these things?
Worthless.
If they're worthless, it all pops. So it was greed and quick financial turnaround that made that pop. The concept of NFTs as a whole is absolutely fantastic. Put some weight behind the artwork and put some like provenance to say who did this, when they did it, who has been traded to. That's all fantastic information, but financial greed ruined it all.
It's funny, you've got the physicality of art painting.
Yeah.
Right. The process,
you see the texture, the
canvas.
depth.
You got canvas, and you've got a creative design, and you have to mix your paints to get a certain color, and you've got your brush strokes, and you got to paint it. And then you've got this thing called AI that just creates a digital art piece like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like real estate.
Yeah.
They've got now Meta has created this digital real estate that you could buy digital real estate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everything is like going digital these days, and they're like
Crazy.
cutting so many corners. And I don't even follow digital real estate. I have no clue about it, but I know people have been getting into digital real estate, and they've lost millions.
Yes. And 100%, because it all is. And I know a lot of friends in the crypto world that have lost millions doing, investing in a new coin or whatever it is, these little fly by night things. Like at the end of the day, tactical stuff, like a tactical piece of real estate, an actual painting with depth, texture,
Something you can
foundation is never going away.
Right.
Digital could come in and be there as well, but it's never going to replace.
Well, I think it's okay until the next they improve the AI or they improve the digital world, and then just something even better. But like you said, like this is something I could see it, I could touch it, I could feel it, I could hang it in my home.
Yep.
Art in your wallet, like in your phone, is I don't know what value that is.
Yeah. No, there's not much.
You've done some collaborations with major brands like Disney and Adidas. How have these collaborations impacted your financial success?
Yeah. I mean, they're excellent. All the time, I always look at all of these projects, and you always think that, like, that's going to be my big break. You're like, I did a big deal at Disney. I did a collaboration with Adidas. I'm doing a really cool one for this holiday season with the Prisoner wine. I'm doing a collaboration, all the LCBOs, BC Liquor, Montreal. So all those stores, my art will be up on their wine. And I always look at those things as, yes, in the short term, the financial is fantastic. There's usually a pretty big dollar amount associated with a lot of these deals. But more importantly, the combination of all of these brands together give me the leverage to go to the next brand. And not only you ask by financials, ask for more. Because you're like, oh, I already executed this. This is how it went. I'm doing a big collaboration with TD Bank right now for a commercial series. A couple different things like this I've been able to do because of all the other ones. So at the front, the financials are just okay. Like, the money comes and goes. It's the dollar amount doesn't even matter. But when you start combining all of these different big corporate deals, you start realizing, like, oh, I can actually create a portfolio here. And then even more importantly, where the real money comes into play is when all of these head offices and all of the CEOs of these businesses start buying my artwork.
Yes.
And that's when it starts to go. Like I did a painting collaboration with OnWave, the company in Toronto. They're the underwater cooling systems. They cool and heat a bunch of buildings. Then the CEO is like, oh, well, I need a painting. And then you start from a corporate deal that rolls into, actual painting sales, which are, real.
How do you negotiate these big deals with like brands like TD or Disney? Yeah. Because like I would even, as an artist, like I would even know where to start and how to negotiate a deal. Is it, do you price a painting based on the complexity, the size, the amount of years that you've been in the business, their financial backing? How do you negotiate a deal with them?
So yeah, it's a great question. So I always go based off the painting. So it always starts with whatever my current market price is for a painting, and everything that I do is back-ended off that. So they need, for a simple example, TD wanted a 5 foot by 4 foot painting in my gallery right now. That'd be $22,000. So now now that they want social media videos on top of that, they want me to post on social media. They want me to do live. They want me to go into media for them. Then those just become layers on top of the painting. But everything starts as a painting. So when OnWave wanted me to do a piece, we're like, okay, what you want a piece for your boardroom that I'll then do for your corporate event? Okay, what size painting do you want? Okay, you want a 7 foot painting? Well, that's gonna be $27,000. Simple numbers, whatever it is in my gallery. And I always work backwards from that. So it happens organically based on my gallery pricing, and that's how I do it. There's been a couple times where I could have probably said like, oh, TD probably has a bigger budget than XYZ company, but it wouldn't make sense that way. And that's how I start manipulating my own art market, which doesn't make any sense. I'd rather just stay organic to what people are buying paintings for. Stay within that, whether it's a huge conglomerate or an individual person. I think that's the fair way to do it.
As you get more well-known, how important do you think it is to engage and start to have a financial advisor or a financial coach, someone who's going to help guide you and manage you and plan your retirement along that way?
Extremely important, and it's definitely something we'll be talking about soon outside of the podcast.
Because I had this conversation last week with Julian. Like she sold her company for millions of dollars. Yeah, and she's like, it's so important to have the right accountant, the right lawyer, and the right financial advisor, because now you've come into a big amount of money. Yeah, you don't want to be blowing it.
For sure. I've always thought about this because there's no sale date for me, so I'm not really building any value with regards that I can one day sell. It's all within me. But what's starting to happen is bigger and bigger deals are coming through, and larger lump sum payments are coming through. Yeah. And as I start to get through to these levels and hit these thresholds, I do need to start thinking about that. So I think it's gonna, in the next 2 to 3 years, be a major component into everything I do, because right now everything that I'm making, I'm reinvesting. Like when I have to go to Singapore, it's all on me. Like I'm flying myself. I'm going to North Carolina for a small event. Yeah. I'm going down. Like everything's on me. So right now it's a lot of just reinvesting in myself, because that's how I'm going to build my brand. And as you know, but yes, I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's so important.
Well, what's interesting about it is your business is there really is no succession plan. Yeah. Where, someone like Julie, who built a very successful business and was able to sell it off to Avery Labels. Okay. And she could walk away. Yeah. Yeah. You can't walk away. You are the business. Yeah. There is no success unless your son can paint like you or better, and he takes over the business.
Still wouldn't be.
Or maybe the gallery, maybe you've got a bunch of galleries, but then again, who's doing those paintings? So it's not like you're even building a business that you can exit.
Yeah, that's right. And that's been the hardest thing for me as a finance guy to like sort of come around. And that's where I've understood is I have to keep building brand as big as physically possible, because what that'll allow me to do is sell my art for as much as possible.
Yes.
When I'm selling $1 million paintings, then you don't need to sell many a year to be okay.
True.
Right? So it's
One
right
a month
now,
is good.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, at simple numbers, like I got to sell a $10,000 painting 100 times, and that's my $1 million mark if we're saying simple. So you just want to keep lowering that to actually be able to execute that many paintings.
What advice would you give to someone who's considering doing what you did? They've got a career, but they have this passion, they have a dream. What advice would you give to that person who's listening right now to say, fuck it?
Yeah.
I'm going to chase my dream and I'm going to give it all up.
Yeah. I would say truly believe in what you're doing. No one's going to believe in you unless you believe in you first. It's so many different things that we go through in our lives that we're like, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be no's. There's going to be all these different hurdles and roadblocks. If you believe in what you're doing, then it's achievable. And in saying that, we got to work hard. We have to actually execute every single day. We can't just dream and be like, okay, well, I'm not going to wake up from my dream. You have to actually wake up from your dream and go execute. So to that person that's in their job right now, thinking about transitioning into something they love, it doesn't have to be art. It could be anything. Do it and every other waking moment. We got a lot of time in our day. You say you wake up at 4:30 every single morning. That's to get in all that alone time. That's to get in all the work you need to do. That's to focus on your health, I'm sure.
Yep.
That's all the different elements. Understand that that's what it takes. If you're willing to wake up at 4 and go to bed late while spending family time, while doing the work you need to do, it'll all work out.
Well, think about it. The average person is probably getting up, let's say they get up at 6.
Mhm.
Okay. By the time, I get up at 4:30, I get my coffee going, start my day, I go through my social media, I answer, reply to comments and stuff like that, right? Let's say I start my day at 5. Guy's getting up at 6 and starting his day probably at 7. If I get an extra 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
5 days a week, that's 10 hours.
Yeah.
I do that in a month, that's another 48 hours. I'm working 5 weeks compared to your 4
For
weeks.
sure. It's crazy.
Right? I'm working an extra 3 months in a year
Yeah.
compared to your 12. I'm getting 15 months of work in to your 12 months.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to be more successful?
Every day of the week. You're right. And then you tack on that extra hour at night from 7 to 8 when they're just, watching sports. You tack on an hour in the weekend, and all of a sudden it just continues to compound. So if you're really passionate about doing this, then do that. Start stacking your hours. Look at your schedule. Like analyze where you're wasting time. We all do. We all waste time. Every single one of us.
Social media is the biggest time-consuming thing.
100%.
I catch myself so many times.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be in the middle of an email or doing something, and all of a sudden I'll get a message or
ping,
something, and I'll look at it, and then I find myself scrolling. I'm like, son of a bitch, put this thing away. Like I just put it away. I turn it over so that I can finish one because I catch myself doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No plan B.
No plan B. That's the only way to be. That's the only way to be.
Yeah.
No plan B. Just head down, work at what you believe in yourself, and it all works out.
How can people find you? Because I know you're very active on social media.
Yeah. Instagram is my main one. It's Ricciardi, my last name, Paints. And then my website's Ricciardi Paints. Everything's sort of just Ricciardi Paints.
If someone wants to reach out to you to
Reach out to me directly.
buy a painting or a commission.
Yeah. Social media is easy. You can shoot me a DM or my email, team@ricciardipaints.com. I do a lot of custom pieces. I have a lot of different galleries that have pieces that are currently available. So if you'd like something that you see, we're happy to make it work.
And where are your galleries right now?
Current galleries, Yorkville Village. By the time this airs, it'll be Bayview Village in Toronto.
Congrats.
Thank you. Toronto Pearson Airport, and then Sydney, Australia. And then
Sydney, wow.
Those are my permanent ones, and the rest of them are pop-ups. So it just depends on what month and stuff.
I know you spent some time in Dubai. Anything you going to open up anything in Dubai?
Yes, December I'll be back there. I usually just do like 1 or 2 weeks a year there as a pop-up. I don't have anything that's a long-term there. It's just so far. And the Sydney one, I have someone that works full-time. It's a gallery, Audrey Fine Art. They're fantastic there. But Dubai, I don't have that yet, and I'm working on it because they're a great market.
They got a lot. Oh, they got a ton of money.
They got a lot of money.
They got a lot of money to buy some nice
buy
art
some art.
pieces.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for your time and for being here. Congratulations to your success and the opening of Bayview Village. Guys, look him up, Anthony Ricciardi at
Ricciardi Paints.
Ricciardi
Yeah,
Paints
Ricciardi
on
Paints,
Instagram.
Instagram, website,
He's got some,
everything.
check him out. He's got some really beautiful pieces. I've been following for quite a while. We have a
mutual friend,
a
yeah.
good mutual friend. Yeah, guys, that's all for today. If you like this episode, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and guys, don't forget to pick up my book, Wealth Without Wall Street. This is the type of financial information that you are not going to get or learn in school. That's all for today. So take care of your wealth and your health.